Super B Amoeba is asking, can you explain how the difficulty change after the EIP? Well, if it passes, right? Hasn't passed yet. It's just a proposal that miners are going to be able to vote on. The short and simple thing is it's going to change the epoch length in terms of how difficulty is averaged. That's going to move from 1,024 blocks to 8 times faster, which is 128 blocks. And so what that means in simple terms is that the diff adjustment is going to be 8 times, faster. Now, there is a secondary thing that was added where every difficulty adjustment, the network is capped at 50% adjustment. So if we see any massive spikes, it'll give us a little bit of a delay in terms of the difficulty spiking as it did, coming out of the merge. There's still a ton of hardware out there that's on the sidelines. So that's a potential, risk. Obviously, you have to keep profitability in mind. And profitability right now for mining, in general, for GPU mining is not the greatest. And it really represents a big shift, right? There for probably the last 2 years, you had a scenario where markets supported what I would call rational mining, which is where your GPUs could basically print profits, right? A lot of things were profitable. You could mine a network and immediately cash out, right? And that is a market scenario that, kind of the broader market has to support rational mining. Proof of work would not exist, however, without irrational mining. If you look at any proof of work chain, being that, I guess ideally they're going to launch from zero, right? It requires irrational mining, where a miner is using their input costs to essentially mine a call option for the future that has no expiration date. So whatever their input cost is kind of the cost of production, and irrational mining is kind of a choice to mine a chain to say, okay, this is the input value for this token. And, obviously if you're going to buy a call option, you have some assumption that the price is going to go higher than that over time. And so because there's no expiration in terms of a coin that you custody, generally miners will hold that and kind of get out once the market supports whatever their input cost was, right? That's kind of irrational mining. Some people call it spec mining. So for the most part, unless you are basically at like zero input cost for electricity and you have a lot of your hardware covered, a lot of people right now are kind of mining option contracts because exiting right now in the short term is a loss. But that's also a part of what creates the cost of production and real world value behind proof of work. So over time, if miners kind of treat irrational mining as an option contract, it tends to reduce sell pressure, and then things kind of balance, find their own equilibrium on markets. Post ETH, 90% of the 90+% of the proof of work market basically got rugged, right? And so rational miners serve short-term markets. That's just how proof of work works. And that's kind of disappeared, and it's created like a hyper competition amongst GPU coins. So that's something that we'll have to balance in time. It was a pretty hard reset for the GPU mining industry and all the miners out there, and everybody's feeling that. Now, those conditions won't change overnight because, again, that scenario has to be backed by the market itself. It's not something that a project can just hack. It generally has to do with like macro trends in the space. It's part of, I guess, the fuel multiple and the cycle that crypto goes through. Now, it is true that, we have our own challenge at the moment with the difficulty adjustment post-merge. We've put out the solution, so it's ultimately going to be up to miners to decide how the network moves forward. That's what Ergo was built for. I guess we were a little bit slow to adapt, but fast to implement change. So I hope everybody out there, sees that, takes advantage, and recognizes all of the stuff that's happening beyond just the difficulty adjustment, because in my opinion, ultimately, this is technology. And so there's a broad use case in terms of what can be done. If you want to learn more about what's happening in the ecosystem itself, tune in on Sunday, or feel free to hop in Discord and read the developer update yourself, because there's a lot of good stuff in there. Unfortunately, the merge drama has really taken eyes off of all of the developer teams across the ecosystem and all the great stuff they're putting together. So I think ultimately it's going to be that set of actors that really shows what the network is capable of.